Hello and welcome to the Coaching Crowd podcast with me, Zoe Hawkins, and my friend and co-host Jo Wheatley.
Hi, everybody. Thank you for joining us today. Today, we're talking about coaching as a career option for military leavers, and that is for a couple of reasons, really. One is that we are ELCAS registered, which you may or may not know, which means that you can access or apply funding from ELCAS towards our coaching qualifications. And the second is because both of our husbands are former military personnel.
Absolutely. And we have seen an increase in the number of inquiries from military leavers or those who've left the military who still have ELCAS funding to use. So we wanted to spend some time talking about coaching as a career option, and also how coaching would obviously fit into the lives and careers of people who are used to military service. So I think a great place to start really is in recognizing what a complementary skill coaching is to people who have been used to leading and working within, in the forces. What we have seen and what we have heard from those people who've been on our courses previously, and obviously our own personal experiences, the military invest a huge amount in the leadership skills of their employees and their service personnel. And coaching for us is very much a leadership skill. It is there to help to influence, coach, guide, counsel, all sorts of different problems and challenges that people come up against in their working career. And so coaching for us is almost a formalization of many of those leadership skills and those natural abilities that you would have gained in your service in the military.
I think not only will a coaching qualification or the experience of getting your coaching qualification help you in terms of your CV and the attractiveness of you to leadership positions, but also can really help with what can be a tricky time when you are resettling into a new career, leaving the services and finding a new job. So there are two benefits to it, because on our level 5 and level 7 coaching programs, you are going to be coached by people in your cohort every single week. So that's great timing whilst you're going through a period of transition yourself, whilst you're also enhancing the skills. We recognize that all of our learners come to our courses with knowledge, skills and experience that are valuable. Nobody is starting from zero. And so that blend across our cohorts and that sharing of resources, knowledge, connections can be so valuable on top of the training itself.
It's a great network as well, isn't it? And I think, yes, for military leavers, actually for anybody in a period of transition where they're thinking about growing their career, you can tap into a network full of many other leaders, lots of leaders within HR, which are obviously great connections to have when you're resettling and trying to find out about different career streams and avenues. And when I reflect back on when my husband left the military, so he'd done, I think, 16 years service in the army, left at major level. And I think one of the biggest concerns amongst him and his peers was, how do you make your CV understandable to normal companies, civvy companies? And so I think something like a coaching qualification speaks a common language. It's a way to help you to translate everything that you have done in terms of leadership style and the communication skills that you would have developed into a qualification that translates well across any industry. People understand largely today what coaching is and see that as a core part of leadership.
Yeah, and I think my husband's seen me develop a career in our business, in the world of coaching that I've been part of. And when he was leaving, was thinking, well, I want a career that I feel that way about as well. And that can be tricky around decision making. What are you going to do? How does your skill set apply outside of the forces? My husband was in the Royal Marines, and he has now found that, but also has developed that interest in mentoring and coaching, and having seen the impact that it can have both personally and professionally.
And you mentioned around transition and change being tricky. And I think it's fair to say, whichever of the forces you're in, there is a unique culture. And for many of you who would have spent many years, anyone that spent many years in one employer, it is nerve-wracking to think about stepping outside of that employer into a new organization. I think particularly when you've been in the military, where you can become I don't know what the word is that they use. I remember my husband using a particular word to describe what it was like. But basically, you all share shared values. You know, there's a culture, there's a similar mindset. And so stepping out of that into, I don't remember what he called this one, into Civvy Street was quite daunting. And one of the experiences he was sharing with me in the early days is that actually in the army, there is a command and control culture. So if somebody is asked to do something, then they go and they do that. And there isn't too much of a need to persuade and influence in different ways. And so when you come into Civvy Street and there's a range of different organizations, we know, because we're used to working in those organizations, it's very different. Actually, sometimes you ask people to do something and they don't get it done on time, or there are other priorities coming from other leaders because it's more of a matrix style organization. And I think coaching and mentoring is a way to use what you have in terms of those natural skills of influence and being able to adjust and adapt your style and broadening your skill set out to be able to integrate into different cultures. And almost, I think it's having the confidence that you can do that, because obviously you could do that without a coaching qualification and you will find your way and you will integrate absolutely wonderfully. But I think going through the experience of something like a coaching qualification will give you the self-assurance and the confidence that you have exactly what you need to be able to transition well and to enjoy the transition. I think that's the important thing, is to be able to step out with confidence and enjoy it.
I don't know if this is the word that you were looking for earlier, but I know that when people leave the services, they can really miss the camaraderie. And so when you think about joining a training program, and our weekly formatted program takes about 8 months, you're meeting on that weekly basis for 8 months. We've got other more intense programs for those that are like, right, I'm leaving, I want to get this done. But if we think about the weekly option where you're together once a week for 8 months, you have that camaraderie in your training cohort. You have those times when you feel like, oh, am I understanding this? This is really difficult. Have I made the right decision? And you'll have those other moments where you're celebrating because you're like, oh my goodness, I got that. I did it. I did a great job of it. And, you're there to celebrate together. You're there to have a laugh together. You're there to console each other. It really is that feeling of being in it together, which I think encapsulates that kind of deep trust that you have to have when you're in the services of one another, and to be able to share the things that you do and to really learn deeply on the course. It also requires an incredibly deep level of trust that needs to be formed within the cohort.
Yeah, and I think you're touching there on values, so values around trust and teamwork. And I think, certainly the people that I've met, in our time when Ben was serving, a lot of our friends would have had shared values around legacy, service, making a difference. And I know many military leavers who missed that, who miss knowing that they're working for a particular cause and that everything they're doing is contributing to, this greater whole. And I think coaching certainly gives me that. Like, I feel every day that there is legacy work taking place, that I am making a difference, that I do get to help others. And whether you use it to go on and set up your own business and have an independent kind of coaching business or consultancy, or whether you continue to use that, in a transitioned career into a different corporate organization or elsewhere, that you have more ways to be able to continue to satisfy those values. And I think that can certainly help to bridge a feeling of loss, I think, that can come from when you transition out of the military, because I think it's a time of so many mixed emotions, of excitement for obviously the next phase of growth, for pride at having achieved the time that you've spent in the military, and also fear, anxiety, grief for what you are leaving behind. And I think it's made all that easier when you are amongst a community of people going through similar experiences. And also you are able to draw on success stories of people who have successfully made that transition. And, on our program, we often will have military leavers, but we also have other people in transition. And transition isn't unique to military leavers. It's a unique experience, of course, but any feelings that come up when you're in transition can be shared with other people who are going on a similar journey.
And there may not be many places in your life where you feel that you can actually connect with how you're feeling about this transition and the significance of it, but that's all invited and welcomed in a safe space, you know, on the coaching programs. Now, we also have our shorter programs. So we have our level 3 program, which is like a foundation level of coaching qualification, and that is self-guided. So that can be done in your own time scale, in your own timeline. You access it when you want to at any point, and you have access to that you can refer back to time and time again. So there are also different points of entry, because you might not know, will I like it? Will I enjoy it? Is this for me? So that can be a good way to have a taster for these things as well. When you have, on the one hand, feel like you've got so many options for what you want to do next. And on the other hand, other times you can feel like, well, I don't have any options because I've done this specialist role and I can't see how that translates easily into the world outside the military.
Yeah, absolutely. And we know that for those of you who are thinking that coaching will be a great addition to, the skills that you already have, we would encourage you to get in touch with us if you want to talk about what it would be like, to be working as a coach, what's happening in the industry, what's it like in terms of the mix of people that we have on our programs. We tend to speak to all of our learners before they come and make the decision to join us. And we absolutely invite you to do that. And as we've shared here, we don't claim to fully understand your experience, but we have some related experience having come from some military circles ourselves. And also we're here to listen to how you might want to use what you've got for the future, and we can help to share where a coaching qualification would come in. And obviously, if at that point you decide you want to take it forward and do a coaching qualification with us, we can help you to access your ELCAS funding by you can pay a deposit, you can secure your ELCAS funding, and then we can come back and work out the rest of the payment plan based on what your contribution needs to be and what your ELCAS funding can be. So you can get in touch with us through our support email, which is info@igcompany.co.uk. Ask for a call and one of us will hop on a call with you.
And I'd also say that if you're a regular listener and you're thinking, well, this isn't for me, but oh my goodness, I do know people that are in the military that would absolutely benefit from this and, are going to be leaving, then please forward our details to them, ask them to get in touch with us. And as Zoe said, we can have a chat with them and work out if this could be a good fit for them, either as part of their emotional transition or career transition. And we'd love to be able to support them, having, as Zoe said, had some experience of supporting our own husbands with their transitions.
Yeah. And I think some of the highlights to look forward to from the coaching qualifications, you said, is developing new friendships. We have people that come on our courses. We do, for the level 5 and 7, we do triads. So you're in coaching triads with 3 people. And we know that so many people, when they do those coaching triads, they form friendships for life. And many of them continue to meet many months beyond the coaching program to reconnect and support each other. So it's a really great way to start to, make new connections, broaden your friendships, and start to piece together what your life outside of the military needs to and wants to look like. And you can do that supported by others. So I think that's a highlight. And I think the other highlight is being challenged. So we know, or I know, or feel I know, that many military personnel enjoy challenge, right? You have thrived in some of the most austere places in the world. And so how do you replicate that level of challenge? I'm not claiming to say that a coaching qualification can replicate deployments, but it's a different kind of challenge. It really engages your learning, it engages different parts of your subconscious on lots of different levels. And it's a really great way to to learn another part of you, perhaps that hasn't necessarily been challenged and delved into throughout your military career. So it can be a really exciting phase of learning and growth as well.
I think it can also help, in terms of your own family and how you reintegrate into a new life with them as well. And as you navigate that and work out what that's going to be like in that new phase. And from our perspective, it would be an absolute privilege, and is an absolute privilege when any of our learners choose to join us, and also knowing the contributions that our service leavers have made to keeping us safe, protecting us. So it's a real privilege for us to be able to support you as service leavers with the course in your next transition.
Absolutely. So if today has ignited curiosity in you, we do have a quiz, which is which coaching course is right for me. And you can access that at mycoachingcourse.com. So I invite you to head over there, take a look, and obviously do get in touch if you have further questions.
You might also like to check out our book, Deciding to Coach, really accessible, easy to read of an afternoon, which will help you to decide if this would be a good step for you.